retarded face. I might fuck his bitch, no Bobby bitch. Bitch, I'm gnarly, bitch. I watch that tummy rip, tummy tuck. Fucking uppercut the pussy, shut him up. Vote me up, fucking vote me up. Bitch, let's get it, bruh.
Now, 2015 was truly the start of XXXTENTACION because this was one of X's most important part of his life, because this is when the motion started to come in. He started getting shows, he started releasing a lot more music, he stopped being a bitch and started deleting a whole bunch of shit. But also around this time at the beginning of 2015, literally in January 5th, 2015, X ended up getting arrested. And shortly after X was out of jail, he started to take this music stuff to the next level. He shortly started to work on his collab tape with Ski Mask Slump God by the name of Members Only Volume 1, which he started to work on February 22nd, 2015. Now, me personally, I think this is one of X's and Ski Mask's best projects or one of their best early work. Shit, we got songs like Freddy vs. Jason, Fuck, Amy Winehouse shit, even Ski Mask's Planet Drew is a solid song. We should even consider ourselves lucky that X even finished this mixtape because he scrapped a whole bunch of mixtapes before even dropping this one. A very good example of this is Red Light District and Heartbreak Hotel, which were two mixtapes, two fucking EPs that were supposed to drop but were scrapped. Why? No reason. Shit, this was around the time that X also ended up dyeing his hair, or ended up bleaching his hair, which in my opinion is one of X's best eras. Not one of his best eras, but one of his best hairstyles. He made a lot of good music while having this hairstyle, which I'm gonna guess he probably bleached it around mid-March. Now, around this time, you can kind of tell that X was in a good mental state. He looks a little more rougher than usual. And if I'm not wrong, X was also homeless around this time as well. At this time, X was also experimenting with drugs, and you can also hear it in his music, and he would also talk about it in his music. X had also found a significant style that everyone knew him for, which was his aggressive music. X and Ski Mask were notably going through a pretty tough time when they were working on this project, but that would make their bond even stronger because X and Ski Mask were forced to be together. They were both teaching each other how to survive, and they were both teaching each other's ways. X was teaching Ski Mask how to be more aggressive with his music and be more aggressive towards people and not be so lean back. Meanwhile, Ski Mask was teaching X not to be such a fucking asshole and such a crash out. He was teaching X how to forgive people and how to give people chances, you know, because X would lash out on people on anything. If you looked at him weird or told him something that he didn't like, he probably would have lashed out on you and probably fight you. But in April 2015, X and Ski Mask released Members Only Volume 1. And this is probably one of X's most successful earliest projects because when he released it, X was pushing the song everywhere on Instagram, on Twitter. Fuck was probably the most popular song off this mixtape since it was being pushed by X the most, since he also teased that he would release another song by the name of Run Up On Me, or a Buckwheat diss track. Fuck was kind of X's first aggressive song, and Run Up On Me without a doubt should have caught a lot of people's attention the second that he posted the snippet, because there's no way that you can't say that this song isn't fucking hard. X knew that he had everyone's attention when he dropped this, so he had to be consistent with the music. But to this day, we still don't know exactly why X ended up dissing Buckwheat. Some say that he did this in order to get some attention from Jay Stash, who was having some problems with Buckwheat at the time, and X had gotten in the middle of the feud for no reason, which I can see why he did it. You know, all publicity is good publicity, but no mama's way. You over here fucking beefing with motherfuckers that are way bigger than you, and you over here with a couple hundred followers trying to go at who were at the time some Florida legends. But without a doubt, Run Up On Me for sure caught some fire, and just to add more to the fire, X ended up releasing another snippet, a snippet of a now deleted video of X freestyling to the Riot Beat. And I'm honestly surprised that nobody even has access to this video, because if I remember correctly, people were saying that his freestyle was actually really impressive, and a good handful of people did repost the video, but the video ended up getting taken down shortly after. Now, with the attention that both of these acquired with both of these songs, it obviously got their names buzzing, and X and Ski Mask actually got their first show. Actually, I think it was X's first live performance, while Ski Mask had his first show a couple years or a couple months which was going to take place in June 20, 2015 at the Grand Central. Now, X actually got his first paycheck from his first job way before this show even happened.
Big boy just got, I got a check with my big bro and my baby. I'm gonna open it now. And I got paid $128. Just look.
Also around June, X ended up going back to his brown hair and got rid of the blonde hair, which is a hairstyle that we rarely got any pictures of, but the few pictures that we do have of him, he looks very aggressive and he looks charming. Now, I don't know much about what was happening behind the scenes, but from the looks of it, it looks like X's life was changing for the better. He finally had someone that was close to him and who would listen to him. He finally had a best friend. He finally had a career that was promising to him. He had something to do that wasn't just breaking into houses and threatening people. June 20 finally arrived, and a young Kid Trunks could be seen recording the first live performance of XXXTENTACION.
Very rare in this bitch.
Turn the fuck up! Turn up! Okay. Hey. I got work up from me. Fuck that house, I hit that fucking lick. Fuck your state and fuck all of the feds. And going with my bitch. I've been going home with 40 dollars in the fucking whip. I'm gonna fuck your friends, get on your knees and suck my fucking dick and be like, hey, you not working hard, you not dropping shit.
Feel me? You deep as fuck.
We walking
Feel
to
me?
death.
It's lit. It's fucking lit. Show is lit.
This is also when X started pushing his name more out there. And by pushing his name out there, I mean marketing himself, because
Members Only was just starting to become a collective, and it wasn't going to be just X and Ski Mask anymore. X was planning on expanding the collective even more, but he had to choose the right members since he wanted everybody to be kind of like a family. He wanted everybody to have each other's back, but he also wanted this group to be kind of like an old Odd Future, just a group of kids meeting up to smoke up and record music. But X still had to focus on his own career, and thankfully the first show didn't go bad. They were actually very energetic with their performance, and it seemed like more people wanted to see them live. X and Ski managed to get a second show, and this time they were going to bring out everyone, and when I say everyone, I mean all of Members Only with them. And this show was taking place in July 22nd, 2015. But before the show was announced, X wanted to get a haircut because he didn't want to look like someone's auntie that was off that shit. And his hair was probably fried because of the amount of times that he dyed it. I mean, have y'all seen Young Thug's hair? I'm surprised that Thug isn't bald yet. But before X decided to hit the barbershop, he decided to hit the mall and, ball out, the quick hundo ball that he made off his show. Here he took a couple pictures with Ski and his then girlfriend Cynthia. And then June 25, 2015, X went to the barbershop to get himself a buzz cut. And my boy was looking sharp. God damn, we gotta find that barber. My boy was looking like the definition of guapo. It was finally time for a change because X didn't want to look like a crazy crack kid, and it was time for him to lock in. X caught attention of another artist by the name of Enzo, and he ended up making a song by the name of Lunacy with him. He also ended up having a show with him in July 15, 2015, but this time he wasn't performing alongside Ski Mask. He was performing alongside the artist Enzo, and I think he brought out all of MO, but I'm not sure if Ski Mask was there. X was seriously grinding out these shows because he was just getting show after show after show. And when July 22nd, 2015 came, X was ready to rock out this show with all of MO.
Come on, girl, we late. Come on, we are late. We late. Hurry your fat ass up, nigga. Keep hurry your fat ass.
And luckily, all of Members Only was able to perform.
It's lit, bitch. Let me your daughter, Superman, that pussy, she call me father. Well, up, she went away, then the harvest, goodness, the revolver. Oh my god, fuck this shit.
At this time, Members Only was already a thing, and he started to get his group members to push out his music. And Members Only was really growing as a collective because X wanted everyone in his collective. He wanted designers, producers, rappers, anyone that he knew or that he could trust that could benefit this collective in some sort of way. He wanted people that were going to take their career seriously because X was already building his own little fan base. He just needed more people to support him. So in early August, X started tweeting out the people that were going to be in Members Only, now showing that his collective was official.
X was already 3 months in working on Members Only Volume 2.
And of course, his team had to prove themselves to his fans that they were worth the listen because
almost everyone in Members Only was able to get a track on this mixtape. And everyone was able to play their part right in this mixtape because they obviously got more shows after this.
August 14 came around, and this was the 4th show that X was going to have of Members Only. This was the first time that X was going to premiere the song Netflix and Chill, which was a lost song for a while until it got released by Vlone, thankfully.
The reason this song was deleted was because it didn't garner the attention that X and Hot Boy collab expected.
This was also the first show that X and Ski Mask would ever sign some autographs. And the first time that we ever saw Kid Pronto, the kid that was in the original Look At Me cover. Now, in your eyes, you might think that X was probably doing really good as an artist. He was getting a lot of shows. I mean, he was getting Gravediggers, Garrett's Grand, Field Day, Crowd Control, which, by the way, just by the footage itself, it looks amazing. Literally, everyone is just jumping up and down. Really shows that X kind of had the underground by the balls, because 4 shows for a SoundCloud rapper that barely likes showing his face isn't bad at all. But with all these shows, obviously X's life wasn't that good.
Now, even though X was having all these great shows and he was getting them back to back,
he was still kind of homeless and was living in a car with Ski Mask. All the money from the shows probably wasn't cutting.
He still had to feed a whole group of people that were living with him. So X still had to make money fast. So he started resorting this problem by breaking into houses and robbing people.
Now, something I forgot to mention in the last video is, how did X make money while he was homeless? He was just going from house to house with different family members and even his grandma. How did X manage to make money while he was homeless with nobody to fund him or even trust him enough to give him money? X did work a unique job as a telemarketer, calling into different companies, trying to convince these companies into switching services like electricity. Now, of course, X did, like a wise man once said, he did trap before he rapped because he was selling drugs in his early stages of music. And X wasn't doing this alone. There is a story of Sully the Chief God, a very early member of Very Rare Boys, of a time when he was smoking weed with X and his dad ended up calling him to just basically scold him and just talk shit. And Sully wasn't with none of that. He wasn't trying to hear his old man yap about some bullshit. So of course he ended up telling X that he couldn't stay home, and X actually offered him to stay at a friend's house, which ended up being a trap house where they were selling Flocka. And if you don't know what Flocka is, watch The Walking Dead or just watch Kodak Black's live stream.
But yeah, X ended up taking Sully to a trap house and they ended up spending the night there. Someone in the house ended up going through their bags while they were sleeping, and X ended up noticing that someone took stuff from his bag. So he said he was gonna fight everybody in that house if he didn't get an explanation or if he got his stuff back. And yeah, eventually
eventually someone ended up slapboxing him for it. But this goes to show that X wasn't scared of anyone. X was willing to do the most extreme thing in order for him to get what he wanted. Even though he was like 5'5", that man was really confident. He didn't give no shit.
As we all know by now, X wasn't no stranger to grand theft. Shit, according to Vlone, in 2014, X supposedly went to a studio with the intent to record, but ended up hitting a lick on the guy that was probably the studio owner or the engineer. He also at one point robbed his plug for some weed. And from the looks of it, it seems like X really hated the idea of having a 9-to-5 job, since he only had one job just to impress Cynthia's parents, who was his at the time girlfriend. X was literally just a kid that was homeless and trying to find a way out with only few little choices to make it out. And all the pressure that he had from the music and the money side of things, and he was still homeless. There's no doubt that X's mental took a toll, and X only had so little choices to make it in life. It was either him being homeless and taking the risk, or stay homeless and keep applying to jobs that probably wouldn't want him while fighting various of cases. On August 25th, 2015 at 11:26 p.m., X eventually would get into an argument with his girlfriend Cynthia that would lead him to throw himself or jump in front of a car and land him in the hospital. Thing is, this is all of Josh's fault, since he was the one that ended up cheating on her.
I threw myself in front of a car a while ago because of my ex-girlfriend. So around the time when she left, the pain started to kick in. I walked into the road and I threw myself in front of a car. Luckily, I hit the side of the car. I left a big dent. I still have a ticket in court because of it. You can look it up. Traffic infraction. Hit the side of the car. I went to the hospital. My leg was fucked up. This was when this body per se was still Jose. I took the IV out of my arm. I called my ride. I went home. I went to my manager's house. Tried to put a fork in a fucking wall, so I was too pussy to do.
And a couple days later, they ended up being cool, so X ended up doing all of that for nothing. Bro ended up fucking up his whole shit up. Still had to go to court just for him to stay with the same bitch. This just goes to show that don't crash out over a bitch, bro. It's all gonna be okay in the end. Something I want to mention is X is known for having a unique hair color. He had his bleached dreads, his blue or purple dreads, I should say, the classic black and blonde dread. But something very few may know is that X at one point dyed his hair green. This being in September 16, 2015. X would also meet the producer Prox in the same month from his other producer, Killbender. Killbender produced the song Wing Written Angel and has reported that he will recite the song word by word for $1 million. Killbender ended up introducing Prox to X when he was annoyed that X took his beef from him without permission and uploading what was to be caution. He said this on a Reddit AMA. A couple months later, in October 5th, 2015, XXXTENTACION ended up getting the alone tattoo above his eyebrow. Alone meaning that he's always been alone all of his life. It's a huge impact in his life, and nobody knows his life or what he's been going through but himself, which makes him alone. October 14, X would also have his first photo shoot showing off his alone tattoo. This was a March Files photo shoot. And after 3 painful months, X finally dropped Members Only Volume 2, which was released on October 31st, 2015, which X luckily had a show on that day, and he ended up going dressed as DMX. This show was crazy, and it must have been a wake-up call to X that he had to keep going into his career because he met a lot of people. This show being Death Row South, with the main headline being 21 Savage. X would also perform along the artists Uno the Activist, 1000 Band Fani, and Young Bands. And the show was being hosted by Rojas and Hidden Ruby, an event holder that seems to still be hosting shows. X would also be approached by 1000 Band Fani and Uno the Activist to make a collab song or a collab tape after the show, but it's unknown if anything was done. The most we know is that they went to an after party at Mars Files' house where they shot an unofficial music video for Ski Mask Ricky Bobby. But I swear, this show almost changed everything for X, because after this show, X had a live performance almost every week and every month. Not only X, this also includes Ski, because Ski was having a crazy life along with X.
If I want it, then I gotta have it. You hating on me, I might let you have it. My nigga on me, and she goes and have it. If my brother spill him out, I need the rent. I did the plug, I think you want it, man. I hit him with the blade, not strap. Dirty face, I'm like dirty face. I'm like fuck his bitch, no Bobby bitch.
This show must have hyped them up, because shortly after this show, they would end up releasing the song I Love It When They Run, with the cover art being a picture of X while he's performing at the Death Row South show. Now, something I have to talk about is about X's breakup with his at the time girlfriend Cynthia. Cynthia is a very important part of X's life. She's one of the reasons that X got the elephant tattoo tatted on his neck. I want to say that him and Cynthia probably fully broke up around October 2015. The reason I'm saying this is because thanks to Jose Tracker, October 23rd, 2015, X ended up releasing the song Wing Written Angel, which was a song dedicated to Cynthia. Cynthia herself has said that she ended up crying when she first heard this song. Listening to this song, you start to notice that it's kind of a goodbye towards Cynthia and apologizing for all the trouble that he put her through. cheating on her, broken promises that he made, having to witness him almost off himself over a mistake that he made. But X knows that he fucked up and he can never imagine himself in her shoes, so now he's letting go of her. X would end up getting the elephant tattoo on November 26, 2015. He ended up posting various pictures on Instagram, Twitter, and on Tumblr, and someone would end up asking a question on Tumblr asking, why did he get that tattoo? With X responding, it doesn't matter, you're just a memory now, stay a memory, run away, stay away. He even posted on Instagram with a picture caption, I'll always remember and love you. Also, a little fun fact, I used to think that the cover art was a little photo shoot, and I was going to list it as a lost media, but it's actually a photo shoot that him and members only had outside of a mansion. Not sure who it was though. Based off his first show in June 2015, X had a total of 12 shows in 2015 alone, which is crazy for someone that barely had 2 years of uploading music publicly, because this motherfucker was deleting literally fucking everything. He had the Garrett show being Ski Mask and XXXTentacion's first performance as a duo, and X's first time performing. Crowd Control, which was his second show and was already seeing a crazy performance. Field Day, the Grave Digger show, the Hangout show, Jump the Shark, the Let's Get It show in September 26, 2015 probably was the first time X fought someone at the show.
What niggas get handled?
Could have been worse, bro. It's alright, man.
Niggas get handled.
Could have been worse. Get some ice on it. Get some ice on that shit, my boy.
The Off the Leash show on October 4th, Death Row South on October 31st, Squatty Fest in December 18, and the CD4 show in December 27th. Where the Let's Pretend We're Numb cover comes from. Sadly though, this show ended up getting shut down by police. Based off a couple of tweets and a couple of posts, it seems like X did have a good Christmas because he was around his family around in the month of December. If you remember from my last video, I said that X ended up getting kicked out of his house around the month of December of 2014 from his mother. 2014 seems to have been hell for X since he was in and out of homes and eventually being homeless for a couple of months with Ski Mask. But finally, it seems like X was getting a break in his life. X at this time also might have had a place to stay since December 17, 2015 is the first piece of footage we have of X being at Bruno Dickham's house, which according to the documentary, X had asked Bruno if he could stay at his house and Bruno would agree to let both X and Ski live with him once they turned 18 and both got their IDs. They would end up meeting with him right after their Squatty Fest Miami show, and it must have been their first time there since we can see X playing Call of Duty Zombies on the TV, we can see Ski Mask playing ping pong table, and we can also see a stripper pole. But December's very special because on December 30, 2015 would be the day that X ended up releasing or recording the song Look At Me. Seen in this video right here of X jumping in his car listening to Look At Me, recorded by Rojas himself, the producer of the song.
Hey, I like bitch was your best. Hey, can't keep my dick in my pants. My bitch don't love me no more. Hey, she kiss me out on like bro. Hey, that bitch don't wanna be friends. Hey, I give her dick, she I'm mad. Hey, she put her 10 on my dick.
Shortly after December 2015, X would end up going to Rojas Fest out in Denver, Colorado. This is where the Road to Denver vlog is taking place in. All of the pictures and videos you see from this vlog is taken in January 6, 2016. Just a year ago on January 7, 2015, X was just in jail. And now my boy was on the road to fucking Denver, Colorado. It really shows how much it could change in just a year. I really gotta lock the fuck in. But X took advantage while being out in Colorado. My boy was meeting Denzel Curry, who was at his fucking peak, by the way, at this time. If you guys remember, he dropped Ultimate. He probably had like at least 2 shows, I ain't gonna lie. But he probably did make a good amount of connections out there. Rojas Fest was taking place in Denver, Colorado at the Roxy Denver in 2549 Welton Street, and it was being hosted by Badman Tafari and Ian Connor. This was the first ever show everyone in members only would attend out of state in Florida. X would meet Denzel Curry, Playboy Cardi, and even Wintertime, who had a pretty big following at the time. Members only also had the chance to stay over at Denzel Curry's ULT house. January 9, 2016 would be members only's final days out in Denver, with their only show being Rojas Fest. But if you heard this song, Failure is Not an Option, then you probably heard this intro before, and this intro is taken from the video of X stomping this guy out in a vlog. On January 13, 2016, X would be on his way to Denzel Curry's house and was also working on a music video with the artist Yoshi Tompkins for the song Hit the Dirt, which was probably X's first ever released music video. And not even a month later, X would have another show for the Hill Forever show on January 15, 2016, which was being hosted by Tatiana and DJ Hazy. And based off the pictures and videos that we have, this show must have been amazing for X. But with all these shows and all the money and all the new faces that he was seeing almost every day, it must not have been enough for X for him to still be getting in trouble. While 2015 was truly a life-changing year for X, but it seems like he still had a lot of mental problems and was still getting himself into a lot of trouble, because almost all of 2016, X was kind of in jail. Unfortunately, 5 days after the Forever Ill show, X would go on to stab 8 people after a big group of men approached X and his friends and tried jumping him.
I ain't come
There's some footage of what was happening before X ended up stabbing them. You can see him in a couple of still shots that he's holding a knife.
Hey, watch your back. You want to say the one-on-one? You want to say it? Don't jump. Don't jump. Look, hold on. Hold on.
3 days later, X would have his 18th birthday, this time with a group of friends and possibly at Bruno's house. X would also eventually go out of his way to go slap Rojas for stealing money from him for the song Look At Me, which I think he ended up finding him when he went to the Trap Apartment show.
What the fuck did you say? What did you say? What you said? Yeah, you sleep. Look at you. I ain't even have to fucking punch you, dumbass nigga.
Slapped him.
Look at you. Don't even rob this dumbass, bro.
He would also be gifted an AK-47 for his 18th birthday just by the looks of these pictures on January 23rd, 2016. He would then go back to the ULT house, I want to say around January 23rd, because according to a post and an interview from Denzel Curry with Montreality, he says that him and X wrote the song Space Ghost Pussy shortly after a soccer game with X and Ski where he got to know them better for the first time. A$AP Yams would also sadly pass away in January 18, 2016 after an overdose on various of drugs. This was huge in 2016 and lots of people paid off their respects, except for the widely known D1 hater, Space Ghost Perp.
First and foremost, fuck that bitch ass nigga Rod Wave, you fat piece of shit. You fat singing snore, you fat Snorlax singing ass nigga, you the fattest fuck nigga I ever seen.
Now this beef deserves its own video because it really goes deeper than just Denzel and X. Almost everyone in the underground was dissing Space Ghost Perp. This including Ski Mask, Playboy Cardi, and even Lil Yachty. All for the love of A$AP Yams. Even though Space Ghost Perp was the one that damn near influenced almost everyone in the underground and the Florida scene, he was one of the many reasons that A$AP Rocky even got famous and went on to influence many more artists. This including Denzel Curry, and since he was messing with A$AP Mob heavy, and so was X, this ended up leading to both X and Denzel hating on Space Ghost Perp. Now, Denzel didn't really want to diss SGP. I mean, he was a big influence in the Florida scene, and he was a big influence to him himself. So he either didn't want to diss him because he didn't want backlash, or he didn't want to ruin a relationship with one of his idols over a beef that wasn't involving him. But X would end up pushing Denzel to diss him, and so would a Raider clan member by the name of Lofty305 suggested Denzel that he should end up dissing him. And so Space Ghost Pussy was recorded. X was also living with Denzel at the time, so it was probably easy for him to influence him to just diss him. We know this because a couple Polaroid pictures were taken at the ULT house, with one of them ending up as the Look At Me cover, which I used to think was a pretty hard cover. Now you probably noticed I haven't talked about any projects other than the Members Only Volume 2, and that's because bro was teasing so many projects that he never even ended up finishing them, or even started to work on them. X would tweet various of songs and album titles that never came to be, such as Kids and It Will All Be Over Soon. Both of these he began to work on 2016, and both of these were teased on Twitter with the project Kids having 8 tracks. Sadly though, he scrapped both of these projects to tease Bad Vibes Forever, the 2016 version. And based off the information that we have, it seems like X never even fucking started his album. It Will All Be Over Soon, which he tweeted out back in October 2015, had such a cool cover art. And from what we know thanks to Absent Will's Twitter, we know that there was at least 2 covers made for this album, or mixtape. I really wish X would have officially released this album because I would have loved to have like a vinyl or something along those lines of this amazing mixtape. We know it was started shortly after the scrapping of Kids, and this mixtape would have been available on all streaming platforms. But instead of releasing It Will All Be Over Soon, he instead released It Wasn't Enough, released on April 17, 2016, and it really must have not been enough since X's reckless behavior was just starting to take over again. X would go on to rob various of people in 2016, and it's crazy that bro had some buzz in Florida, and he was already known for beating motherfuckers up and robbing them. X back in early 2016 robbed the guy for his Bart Simpson's chain. Instagram user SyncX17 currently has a hold of this chain after buying it from a friend of X.
Hey man, we had to take a fuck nigga chain today, man. These niggas playing with me, man. And we do this, man. Bust to a fuck nigga, man.
Time, nigga.
Fuck nigga, man.
Time,
Let these
nigga.
fuck niggas know we on that.
Time, nigga.
I'ma rock this shit, boy. This shit nice too. Fuck on this silver. Oh, this shit nice. Fuck on
But
this.
hey, in April 14, 2016, X would find a beat for I Don't Wanna Do This Anymore and recorded on it that same day. So I guess it's not all that bad. See, while X was out here wilding, he was literally entering his peak. I mean, he was actually releasing and completing promises with fans while Bad Vibes Forever 2016 was still being announced, which we know never fucking came true. X was releasing a lot of good music. I mean, he had a lot of music already dropped. Songs like Look At Me, I Love It When They Run, and Space Ghost Pussy slowly started getting traction. And that's because the Space Ghost Perp beef was still relatively fresh. Also at the time, X went live on Periscope and was waiting for him with guns, machetes, and ready to fight him while he was sipping tea in his hood. And this happened back in February 25th, 2016.
Bro, don't entertain this foo-foo ass nigga. Come on, bro. I was sipping tea in his hood. bro. There's nothing else I could do, bro. I'm not gonna sit on a block for like a whole hour, bro, waiting on shit, bro. Y'all see me come from the house. Y'all see me go there, bro. Bro, on set, bro. Any fuck nigga gotta.
And X must have caught some serious attention off this beef because Suicide Boys would go on to invite him to their tour, that being the Southside Suicide Tour. And he was only able to perform at the last 3 stops in Florida, that being in Orlando, St. Petersburg, and Fort Lauderdale. At first, Puyo didn't want X on this tour probably because of X's violent behavior, and he also knew about his beef.
Everybody knew about Space Ghost Perp, and everybody was inspired by SGP. So was Puyo, and he was probably trying to befriend SGP. But even with all this conflict, X was still allowed on this tour, and X would go crazy. It's reported that he was throwing mic stands in the crowd, he was bringing random people up on the stage, and after his last show, X would go on to continue the show outside of the venue and perform on top of someone's car. With Wi-Fi's funeral, where they would perform their new song, Mannequin. Now this is for sure when X's mental was not straight, because after Southside Suicide Tour, X would go on to have his own show on April 2nd, 2016, where someone would threaten X to shoot him. And that fool was not fucking backing down. That fool was telling him to shoot him in his face. May 3rd, 2016, X would go on to model for the Aspects Dylan brand Aspect with Ski Mask and Slump God, and these pictures are probably one of the most popular pictures of X and Ski Mask together. And not gonna lie, these hoodies are really fucking cool. The black and blue one is definitely a grail for me. X would also land up spawning Rolling Loud in Florida in May 6th to May 7th in 2016. And according to a lot of people that were there and attended X's set, X was probably the best part about Rolling Loud. And this Rolling Loud was packed. They had Future headlining, they had Young Thug, they also had Lil Uzi. We can even see X was behind him in one of his pictures. It's been reported that the DJ that was at X's set ended up getting beat up by him and a couple of other people for messing up his set and fucking with the audio. May 13, 2016 would be the day that X and Ski Mask recorded Take a Step in a room that looks like it was taking place in Bruno's house. Judging by the room that Bruno was in the X documentary, it seems identical. I've seen some people in some comments saying that the guy is sitting next to X with the headphones on his head. People have said that that was X's killer, and I'm gonna say this right now, fuck no. That is one of X's closest friends and one of his producers, one of the people that went on to produce one of his most popular songs, such as King and I Don't Want to Do This Anymore. Sadly, Kate has passed away in late 2020, and his death is currently unknown, but it's been suspected that it was from a heart attack. And that's just really sad, man, because Kate was gonna open up a lot about X. Not only that, but Kate was a really close friend to X. He helped X a lot in his music. X was able to achieve his sound because of him. Shortly after the month of May, it seems like X and Geneva began to see each other again because both of them seem to have started taking pictures of each other. And yeah, that's probably all I'm gonna talk about them being together, because I really don't want to go deep into this domestic abuse shit. I really don't feel comfortable talking about it. But if you guys watch the documentary, they heavily go after what happened. But X's behavior seemed to have spiked again as well, since X would get the bad vibes tattoo on his eyelids. And y'all cannot tell me that this shit is not insane, bro. This shit must have fucking hurt him a fuck ton, bro. He must have been on them Zans heavy. Not to mention, he also got the 17 tattoo on his forehead. On June 5th, 2016, X would also headline a good amount of shows in the month of June. He had the night shift show, the Parental Advisory show with Kodak Black and Lil Uzi, and finally the Beheading show. That happened in June 27, 2016, where X would catch his infamous fade with Linden. This video is also the Young Brad's track where he lets it play for half the beat. This would also sadly be X's last show in 2016 before he got arrested. The funny thing is though that 2 days before this fight happened, X had his infamous Periscope live where he went to beat up some guy that owed Bruno.
I'm about to just beat this nigga's ass,
And you guys get to watch it firsthand.
Now, X living with Bruno was probably the best and worst decision of his life, since Bruno was a corn star. The sounds of X and Ski screaming probably hardly even bothered him. He was free to yell and do all he wanted. But Bruno's house wasn't all safe. See, X was huge into books and reading about different religions and learning about different cultures and the history about these cultures and maybe the history about the US. X would also tamper with witchcraft, and this would mainly happen at Bruno's house, since Bruno Dickham's XXXTentacion's manager at the time was a known devil worshiper. There is even a couple of jail phone calls where X would even recite a quote-unquote ritual in jail. And while it's crazy to hear, it's sadly true. X was huge into witchcraft, and along with Bruno, it's unknown what they would do behind closed doors. Even a couple people who stayed with them would confirm that they would be doing weird rituals inside the house. To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if the day X made this call was the day that he saw the devil in Miami. Like in his song, I saw the devil in Miami, and he said it will all be okay.
There's so much that happens here. This is the house that X and Ski grew up and blossomed out of. Like, they was here for 2 years, and this is where they progressed, and this is where they made a name for themselves. In this house, in my house. When he spoke to the devil in Miami, that was my house. You know what I'm saying? So like, this house is just bringing us back so much, man. Like, I cried so much. And
X would also go on to stab his manager Tables in July 5th, 2016, after he was supposedly stealing money from X and Ski Mask from shows and even the song Look At Me. This would all take place in July 3rd, 2016, after Tables would owe Ski Mask $150. Him and Ski Mask will later have a verbal agreement that he would end up getting him a MoneyGram? I'm guessing this is like to send money to someone's bank account, or kind of like a money order. Ski Mask had told Tables to go pick up that MoneyGram, but according to Tables, he didn't hear him say this on the phone and ended up coming home with a bag of chips, a bag of hot fries that he had asked for, and Ski Mask probably must have been pissed after this, but they ended up leaving for the evening to go get drunk at a party where they would end up arguing. Ski would tell Tables that he would probably be moving out soon and that he needed the money. Ski's other manager, Dallas, ended up coming to come pick him up, and they both agreed that he would come back to pick up the money. The morning of July 5th, 2016, at 11:30 a.m., Jose Alfred would show up at Tables' house, asking for the money that Tables had owed Ski. Tables explained himself, saying that him and Ski agreed that he would come back for the money yesterday, that being July 4th, and X ended up leaving his house. Tables later called Stokely and asked why did he tell X that he stole the money, and Ski Mask responded with, well, I feel like you did, Rob. Ski Mask then said that he would come back for the 150 later today, and came back at 2 p.m. He would knock on his door, where Tables would look through the peephole and saw Stokely. He then opened the door and seen Jose and 4 more guys behind him. They ran into his house asking for the 150 that he owed Ski Mask and 700 that he had owed Jose. X would then take Tables' laptop and demand for the password, where he would give it to him in fear of his life. X then gave the laptop to a friend and told him to put it in the car. X then reached out for a knife that Table had next to him and began to poke him with it. He said he didn't really feel the first and second stab until the third one, where he would go running to the bathroom and notice that he was bleeding a lot. Tables walked out of the bathroom almost bleeding to death, and they all screamed, we gotta get the fuck out of here, where he would end up seeing them pulling out of the driveway, and X would end up screaming out of the window, give me my fucking money, and Tables would end up calling a friend to take him to the ER. Now, according to Tables, which by the way, rest in peace, go, he didn't want to press charges on X, and especially not Ski, since they both had an agreement for the money, but X taking Tables' laptop is what led him to press these charges, and Ski Mask accidentally got himself involved. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, what the fuck did this laptop have that was so valuable to Tables? Like, my boy was about to fucking bleed to death, and the only reason he pressed charges is just because he took his laptop. By the way, this is the laptop the police would end up confiscating from X that reportedly had all of his music and Bad Vibes Forever 2016. This laptop is also sometimes seen in
South by South,
but the charges were later dropped in October 16 after X had gotten arrested again for the abuse of Geneva. Now, I briefly want to go over this arrest with Geneva because this is where the infamous mugshot of X would end up coming from. October 8, 2016, XXXTENTACION would go on a Skype call with some fans to play Minecraft after giving the beats to Geneva. Now, all of this happened because supposedly Geneva was fucking on X's homie Rob, which is a completely different person that we don't know of. So don't even go out there commenting if it's Rob Stone, because it's not. While X was distracted playing Minecraft and on this Skype call, Geneva would duck down and crawl on her knees to the exit of his door, or she would end up going to somebody's house and getting some help, and that's when X ended up getting arrested and his famous mugshot ended up being taken. It's crazy that there's even a whole gameplay video with X in it, and I don't even know what the fuck is happening behind the scenes. Bro over here making dirt houses while Geneva over here doing fucking Mission Impossible moves, which is really messed up because not even a month ago, Geneva would go live on Periscope to pick up X from jail when he got arrested for the stabbing of Tables, and not even a full month has passed and he was already in custody. Tables would then apologize to both X and Ski for causing them trouble and getting Ski Mask involved and almost ruining his career. Tables has always seen the vision for X, and as much as he hated and regretted what he did, in the end he still forgave Joseph because he saw his vision. He saw the big impact that he gave his fans and didn't want to take away that role model from them. Now, sadly, Tables has passed away from overdose in 2021, so we don't know much about him or if he, took the money on purpose or with an intent. But as much as we know, Tables was on some heavy drugs back then. So it's kind of hard to tell if he did this with ill intent or if he just completely forgot about paying back Ski. Sadly, Tables has passed away and so has X. So the only thing that we have from this situation is just an interrogation video with X in the Miami Police Department, where X would end up self-snitching without realizing. But it's kind of sad to look back and think of all these situations that X had been involved in, with him fighting or having to have to stab someone. X wasn't really big on guns. While there's a few pictures of him toting guns here and there, X was more of a fighter. And it's sad to know that his last moments alive, X was found with an open pocket knife ready to stab one of the shooters. And unfortunately, like Table said, X had to hold his end of the bargain because all the karma had finally catched up to X. As much as I hate to admit it, X wasn't really a good person. He changed many lives, yes, and he did change over the years, but I feel like if we were to meet the old Jase, many of us wouldn't be fans. A lot of the situations that X would get himself into would be over misunderstandings, and that's just kind of how he grew up. I mean, all he ever wanted in life was just attention from his mom and to make everyone around him happy, but X wasn't able to do that since he was always homeless and trying to find himself a meaning in life.